What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2, Paper Room Podcast.
We made it.
I mean, we're 2 episodes in. That means like we're official, almost.
Kinda.
I don't know how many episodes it takes to be official, but we're here. We're going to keep going. We're going to try this out. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. The Paper Room Podcast. Hey, if you guys went back and maybe you saw episode 1, if it blessed you, believe it's going to bless somebody else and share it on your social media platforms. And I'm excited about today's conversation. You know, one thing that we want to emphasize is that being a young adult, it's hard, right? I mean, for some people, it's easy, like Isha. No. But being a young adult, it's a hard. Crucial time in your life.
And it's very different out here than when I was a young adult.
Yeah.
You know,
one thing that Summer and I would always tell each other in New York, like, man, it is, like, I can't imagine being single in a city like that.
Oh, Nikki and I had that discussion the other day.
Yeah, it's tough because in the young adult world, you're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to figure out what you want to do. You're trying to figure out what school you want to go to when you graduate high school. You think about just how often people change degree plans in college. Like, it's ridiculous. I read 80% of college students change their degree plan at least 3 times. Right?
Well, I only did it once.
You only did it once. That's good.
Me too.
Yeah, when I saw how much math I was going to have to take.
What was your first degree plan?
I was a business major.
Okay. Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved business. Mm-hmm. But then when I saw all those math, like, it was like a straight semester and a half.
Yeah.
Every class was a math class. And I said, I don't think I'm called to this.
No, not at all. And I'm glad you said you don't think you're called to this, because that's the question we're looking at of why am I here? Like, and that question of what are we called to do? And it's going to be a fun, exciting conversation. And so all to say, welcome. So glad that you're here on this journey with us. And our desire is simply to help young adults look more like Jesus. Like, that's what we want to do as you're navigating life, as you're figuring out what to do with your life, what college to go to, what degree plan to go after, who to marry, all that good stuff. We are praying that you, in all that, you would simply be a disciple and follower of Jesus during your faith journey. And our hope is that these conversations will kind of help you along the way. So we're looking at this question of why am I here? And so before getting to that question, I would love to hear from you guys. What's something, as a kid, you dream a lot, right? You start playing with toys, you start all that stuff. You start dreaming and you start watching certain TV shows, cartoons, all that stuff. You start dreaming and imagining things. What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, when you were a kid, like, what's something you wanted to be when you grew up?
Ish.
Nick, you go first.
I've been talking already.
That's true.
Well, I remember distinctly in first grade, they had us write it down on paper. I wanted to be 5 different things.
5.
One was a singer, a dancer, a runner, an artist, and a teacher.
At the same time?
Well, I don't know why they had us list out like 5.
You could do all that on TikTok
options.
right now.
That's true, yeah.
So that's awesome.
For sure, the one that like stuck with me the longest was to be a teacher. Like, through elementary to, like, all the way through high school. Like, I had that desire to, like, I didn't know what it would look like. I just thought, like, I want to be a teacher and I want to have a classroom one day. And I just had very good teachers in elementary school. Awesome. And that helped me keep that dream going. So by the time I graduated, I thought that I was going to be like a teacher in high school, and then sometimes if you want to be a coach, you have to be a teacher. So I thought, well, I'll just coach cross country because I'm a runner, so I could do both. So that's definitely what I wanted to do.
My elementary experience was a little hard because you may not think this is true, but I was a troublemaker in elementary, and so every single elementary teacher I had knew my mom because my mom worked at Bell's, the department store, and they all shopped there. Like, it was always girls, ladies who shop. And so every time I got in trouble, my mom would hear about it, like, on a Saturday morning or something like that.
She probably had to get them teachers so many discounts to help you out back in the day.
It was not good, and I hated it. But yeah, what did you want to be when you grew up, bro?
Yeah, so unlike Isha, I didn't want to be 5 things. I wanted to be 2 things.
Okay.
One of the earliest memories, I wanted to be an entertainer. That kind of stayed the longest. But I also used to, back in the day, growing up, I used to want to be a wrestler. And I loved watching,
Are you talking like gym wrestling, or what are we talking about?
No. I'm talking about sports entertainment, WWF, Ultimate Warrior.
Oh my goodness.
It's
Zeus.
I love that you said WWF because it's not even what it's called anymore. That's back in the day.
That's back in the day.
It's called WWE.
That's now. When it was. I remember when it used to come on Saturday.
Okay.
And I used to watch wrestling on Saturday. And I remember when Monday Night Raw, the first episode of Monday Night Raw, and yeah, man, I used to want to do that.
Who was your favorite wrestler? First, I can't picture you watching wrestling. It's so funny. I don't know.
It's unexpected.
It's just not what I think.
Usually, it's like I want to be a firefighter.
Right, man. I mean, of course, the Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was the man. But
did you ever like tear your shirt off in your room?
I used to try, but back then they made I didn't know that was a special shirt he had on.
Oh, yeah.
That's a special shirt. Fruit of the Looms make their stuff strong. When you look at each other. But I'm gonna tell you, growing up, my favorite wrestler was Ultimate Warrior. Because when he used to come out, I mean, that whole place would get lit. I mean, he was like a Tasmanian devil, just So, yeah, wrestler or entertainer, and I still love entertainment, even in ministry. I think, and people might, get upset with this, but there is an entertainment aspect in that you got to hold people's attention, and so yeah.
Man, that's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, I love that. I loved wrestling too growing up, and up until
that's why you was bad in school, probably because you was wrestling the kids.
Yeah, like me and my friends in the neighborhood, we would fight outside, pretend like we were wrestling and all.
Who was your favorite wrestler?
I was Shawn Michaels, 100%. Heartbreak Kid, Sweet Chin Music.
Sweet Chin.
He was so good. I think about this, as a kid, like you said, in your elementary class, like they made you list 5 different things. What do you want to be when you grow up, right? And that's just our culture. Like we live in this culture of just possibilities and opportunities. And everybody is in search for this question of why am I here? And when it comes down to it, it's a question of existence. Like we want to know, why are we here? If you're a person of faith, why did God put you on this place, on this earth? And so we're trying to figure that out. That way, one, we can make decisions to help us in the path that we believe we're called to go on. And that's just what we do. From the moment when we were kids, we start dreaming and we think, I want to be this when I grow up. And people want to know who you are and why you believe you're on this earth. And what you're going to do to make a difference, and it's just that purposeful existence of search. And it's interesting to me. I one time had a conversation with a buddy of mine. He's agnostic, meaning he doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in Jesus, but he thinks that there's a possibility that God exists. So he's not atheist. He's agnostic. And I asked him this question. I asked him a question of what's something that you feel like is the most compelling thing about Christianity. So like if you were to believe in Christianity as a religion or just in believe in Jesus. What's one of the most compelling things that kind of draws you to that? And he said the fact that in Christianity, everybody has a plan and a purpose.
Wow.
And I was like, man, that's a powerful statement.
Wow.
So I was like, so you don't have a plan and purpose because you don't believe in Christianity? And I didn't tell him that.
That's a good question
but
to
yeah,
ask.
no, it was dope like to hear that response from him. And that's that question of existence, of what is our purpose? Why are we here? And as believers of Jesus, I'm praying that we would look to Jesus for those answers and responses. And so I think about you guys, I love looking at your journey. I've gotten to know y'all for a while, and just in your life and your ministry. And I would love to kind of hear us talk about how did you get to this point in ministry, right? For you guys, we think about why am I here? How did you wrestle with that question of why am I here? And maybe for you talked about you wanted to be an entertainer and a wrestler. How did wrestling with the question of why am I here kind of shape and change the passions that maybe you were once going after as a kid, and as you start growing up, you start seeing a different path for yourself. So I'd love to kind of talk about that. How did you get to this point, and even in serving in the very specific capacities that you're doing? Let's hear from that.
How did you get here?
Well, I guess just for context, like I'm 23 years old. I started serving here at BT when I was 18. So I don't think I ever asked that question, why am I here, before I met Jesus, which is actually kind of weird because good. I knew I had an idea of what I wanted to do.
Five things.
In my, yes, all 5 things. Yes. So in my mind, I just thought, okay, well, I know that my purpose here on earth, like I didn't think to ask that question because I just thought like I'm going to follow my dreams and I'm going to pray about them, I guess, every once in a while. Like that was my thing growing up. But where I was not good. I was chasing relationships like all my life. I just wanted to love people and I wanted to be loved. So when Jesus met me, it wasn't that question either. It was just like, okay, it's a better understanding. But when I did come into ministry, I went through, fast forward like 2 years, I went through a traumatic experience and heartbreak. And that, coming out of that, is when it was revealed to me what God wanted me to do. It was very clear. Like, my calling is to pursue ministry. Because up to that point, like, I still had the desire to teach. But it was no longer, I didn't see myself in a school. I didn't see myself like in a classroom full of kids, really. But I started to gain that passion for young girls and for relationships. I wanted to help them, prevent all the things that I went through for them. But honestly, I think that there's a difference between walking in my calling and walking confidently in my calling. Because at some point, you will doubt your calling. Sometimes you'll question it. You might not like it sometimes. You'll feel uncomfortable in your calling. But when you start to choose Jesus instead of yourself in that calling, like, okay, I know that God gave me this calling, but it's not mine. It's His. It belongs to Him. It's for Him. It took me a long time to stop trying to please people, because my whole shift was like, okay, I'm going to chase relationships when I'm young. And when I met Jesus, then it became, I'm still chasing relationships, but now it's just with the people that I have to either like perform for or, serve. And it became more about them and about me than it was about God. So once I grew out of that, then I was able to confidently walk in my calling, knowing it's for Him and it's not.
That's good. I love that you said there's going to be moments, even when you're walking in your calling, you're going to doubt or question it. And I think those moments come when you're doing what you feel like you're called to do, but then it just gets hard. It gets difficult. It gets tiring. It's exhausting. So then we start questioning, like, okay, like, why am I here now? Type of thing. I'm called to ministry. I'm serving at this church, but it's hard right now. Some difficult scenario came up, and I think that in those moments it gets really tough, because then we just want to like back out because it's hard. And we have this thought that I'm in ministry, I'm serving Jesus, it should be perfect every single day. But it's like, man, ministry is tough.
Well, I think that catches us off guard, because we also come up with this perception of a calling that it's like identified around a feeling. Like, I've even said 100 times, like, I felt called in 2018, but really the fact is I was called. I there was a feeling there, but I was called. The feeling there was more like I'm fearful of the unknown. I feel unworthy to fulfill my calling, and I feel like I don't think I'm good enough, honestly, now that I know my calling. So those were the feelings. But if we just detach, like, this is my calling, it's a fact. It's something that's been given to me by God, instead of like our feelings, then we won't be easily shaken when it does get hard.
That's good. How about you, bro? What are some of the ways that you wrestled with kind of maybe change passions and then understanding your calling?
So I always say, I surrendered to my call for ministry at 19 in college. And that was, I went on a fast and had people.
At 19, you went on a fast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how long was that?
I did a 3-day fast during that time. But
did somebody challenge you to do that, or you just kind of felt the call to do that?
No, so in college, the church we went to, my wife and I, we would fast throughout the year.
Okay.
And so it was, in college, that was just a spiritual discipline that kind of developed, on and off. But I was really feeling kind of a inner conflict in that I started to kind of grow into my gifting. I'll say it like that. You can have gifts and they, they're just in your toolbox. But, I started to kind of grow in my gifting where, teaching the word, and we had a Bible study on campus, and I was serving the local church, and all of that was kind of being fanned and flamed and growing and growing and growing. And so, my inner conflict was like, okay, God, yes, I'm going to serve you. I'm still going to be a Christian, but like, I'm not putting a whole yes on the table until I'm like 55. Let me make my own money. Let me, let me.
Yeah, that's good.
let me live, Jesus.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was just that inner conflict in me. And so at 19, you know, after that fast, that's when I felt like I put my whole yes on the table for God. And I said, all right, God, you know, I want to give you my best years. You know, not saying when you 55, that ain't your best years. I'm not trying to be ageist or anything.
There are like stats that show that, like I remember I read that like an article or something one time that your best years are like your 50s and 60s. Yeah. Which to me was like, God,
yeah,
I cannot imagine that'd be my best
year. But you know what? I think there could be some truth to that, because by the time you're 50, you've already been doing something
right
for at least 30 years.
Yes.
Right.
And so
those are like the pastors and authors that are putting out books like crazy right now.
I think Pastor Tim Keller didn't release his first book till he was after 50. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, after that fast, because that inner turmoil, like, and I describe it like this, like it felt like Freddy Krueger hands up in me, you know, just like, just being cut up, you know, and at 19, I said, okay, God, I'm going to give you my best years. You know, however that looks. I didn't know that I would be, you know, pastor in the church at 24. I didn't know that I would be a part of, you know, a thriving church and in leadership at 28. Like, I didn't know that. You know, I wanted to push all that down till 55 to do that. But, you know, God had other plans. And I would say another thing that helped me kind of growing my calling is the community of faith that I had in my life. I look at the life of Timothy, how he had people from his community vouching for him, his family vouching for him, pushing him into the things of God, and then he had his spiritual father, Paul, kind of pushing him and vouching for him and the people of God. And I kind of had all of those elements at work in my life, and then just faithfully going through the doors that God opened. You know, I say this all the time, like, I have never had to manufacture anything in my life or ministry. It's just been going through the doors that God has opened. And so, yeah,
that's good. I feel like for me, I've been a similar path to that is when I came to Jesus late in high school, I knew right away I was called to ministry, and it's that same idea, same phrase. I'm called to ministry. I don't know what it looks like. And for me, I was like, I just want to go serve. And I remember looking at a place that is Camp Zephyr and seeing all these people there serving and just thinking like, I want to go at minimum do that. And Zephyr was a crucial time for me. I spent a good amount of time there, spent about two or 3 years there.
And tell them like that, like Camp Zephyr is a wonderful place. I love it.
Yeah.
But it ain't sexy at all.
No, it's not. Yeah, it was rough. I mean, it was weed eating for hours of the day. You know, riding a riding lawnmower for hours of the day. A lot of manual labor. But the beauty of it was a lot of just kind of down, quiet time. Where I just got to grow in my faith. My passion for reading came up. My passion for Bible study came up. Everything kind of grew from that point. And then I remember Grant said this back at the Move conference of when you look at somebody, you know, try to see something in them that I see in you. And that's just kind of been my story, is that somebody saw in me something where I didn't even see that in myself, to where someone said, hey, like, I see this in you. How about you come help with youth ministry? Okay, cool. And then from there, it was just this allowing God to open doors. And I never thought I'd be where I'm at right now. I mean, I don't think I'm anything crazy, but God has given me opportunities to do some really cool stuff. And I think it's that patient walking journey with God that you'll just see him open up doors, and you don't know where you're going to end up. Like, I mean, I always say this, but I never thought I would plant a church alongside Summer in New York City, but it's just like, you don't know. Like, you just
didn't know you were going to be in the skybox at Pat.
Right,
no,
I'm you dropped that. I didn't know that. Away from all the 55,000 people.
Yeah, I'm joking.
But yeah, like, it's just, you have these moments where you're just walking with God, and then God puts somebody in your path, and then now you start walking with that person together.
Yeah, that's very important. Like, both of you said the community aspect at kind of like on the forefront of it, somebody coming in or multiple people being there. And it was the same thing for me. I think it would have been a very different story if when I received that calling, if I felt alone, or if I felt like there's no one here for me to ask questions to, there's no one for me to look up to. But I had people like on both sides of me as I'm limping across, like, okay, I'm stepping into something I don't know. Like, and we were all in the unknown season. And I think a lot of people get very hesitant when they see and they hear, this is my calling, but I have no idea what's on the other side. But that community is what propels us.
Yeah. So let me say this: if there is by chance an adult listening to this episode, not a young adult, but you're a little seasoned, you're in your career path, you're maybe in your 50s and 60s listening to this, and you see a young adult who's passionate about something, like, man, go pray for that young adult. Yes. Go just talk to them, ask them questions about why they're doing what they're doing. And speaking of that, like, just kind of thinking about young adults in general, whether in the church, out of the church, what are some passions that you guys see in young adults right now that they are chasing after as they're kind of maybe wrestling with this question of why am I here?
That's really good. One of the things I believe that this current generation of young adults, they are more comprehensive than other generations of Christians. And by comprehensive, what I mean is this: the young adults that are following Jesus passionately, they care about the spirit and the body. They care about they care about righteousness and justice. They care about what goes on in the church, and they care about what's going on in their community. And I think that is so important because when you think about your purpose, why am I here? I think it's really simple. Now, simple doesn't mean easy, but it's very simple. Jesus says in Luke 10, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but that is simple. And one of the things that I love about this current generation of young adults is I feel that they are really trying to do that, loving God and loving their neighbor in a more comprehensive way than, let's say, previous generations. And so that's what encourages me now as I look out and see it.
Yeah, when I think about the culture, this could be in church and out of church of young adults, but it's, what happened in the 1900s is this reality of adults in that moment chasing their American dream of getting a job and providing opportunity. And now, we always say like kids these days are so privileged, right? And so they get to have all these amazing opportunities, but our parents and grandparents, like, they gave that to us to provide these opportunities for us, and so it's amazing to have these moments of opportunities. But that kind of led into this culture now of I need to find myself, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, I'm going to take some time to figure out who I am, find myself, what am I feeling, which Carl Trueman calls that expressive individualism, and you find yourself in those moments, and that can be very dangerous in an aspect of finding truth in yourself on what you feel, and we see that a lot happening in our culture. And so my hope and prayer is that we would find ourselves in Jesus, not just try to find what we feel. And so that's one thing, a huge thing I see Jesus. That young adults are chasing is they want to find themselves. But it's like,
I can think of three things that are a little bit like a trick, kind of like a tricky kind of question, because they're not essentially bad things. But when I look at young adults, both believers and non-believers, I can see three things that they're chasing that they get in the way of them realizing this is my purpose, this is my calling. First thing I see is pleasing their parents, like especially believers that they want to love people, but they also want to love God. And they kind of prioritize their parents' plan for them over God's plan for them. And it's this very difficult road to walk because they want to respect and honor, but at the same time, they want to pursue what God has put on their hearts. And it is hard to walk. And the second one that I see is pursuing a potential boo. That's not a bad thing. But when I see there's a difference between seeing someone and their God-given gifts and their passions and what God has placed in their life and wanting to come alongside them and pursue the kingdom together, that's one thing. Another thing is to see those things in someone and think they're cool and intriguing and then just kind of like latch onto them, and then those things become yours even though they don't belong to you. And that's when people try to find themselves because they are confused. They don't know why they're there, but they see somebody else knowing why they're here, and it's compelling and it's great, but then they latch onto that. And then the third thing I see is that kind of, I'm going to focus on myself, prioritizing the moment, which is not bad. It's good to be present and to live in the moment. But when it becomes, I'm just going to work hard and work and work and work, and I'm going to neglect the relationships because I need to get enough money to become this, or I need to just focus on school. And then those things become all that's on their mind. They're important things, but
that's our well, I mean, American culture is I'm gonna work to build up this dream, this home, this life. And you even said that too, like, God, let me do this until I'm 55, and then you got me, type of thing, right? And so, but that's what we pursue, and it makes sense because one of the first questions you ask when you meet somebody is, what do you do, right? So we are a culture that's prized on identity and what we do versus who we are, and so. That's the wrestling of why am I here? Is those two things put together. And when I think about, just bringing some Bible into it, Genesis chapter 1, God said, let us make man in our image and our likeness and rule. And then obviously we read the creation story and God is creating the world in this orderly fashion. And then he rests on the seventh day. And I think God in that moment is teaching us this work and rest rhythm of just trusting him. And God calls us to partner and join with him in the creation. And I think now we just kind of have it like flipped. Like we are going to work really hard and rest to go work for more stuff. Or I mean, a lot of us don't even rest. We just keep going. And so kind of being careful with that rhythm that we're going after. Because if we're just doing that, I think we're going to neglect, you can have all that. And I said this, we had young adults last night. It's like, man, if you get to that point, what's the point of getting there if you get there without Jesus? Right. And so that's just a thing that we have to wrestle with. Because why are we here? Well, I believe that God put us here to discover who he is. And so,
and that's like, you look at, all of us are kind of in the same industry or in the in the same vocational ministry, but we're talking to young adults that they gotta brew coffee every day. We're talking to young adults that's trying to finish their last semester or getting their masters or in medical school, or every day they wake up they have a calendar full of responsibilities, and those responsibilities are leading them to a goal, a degree, internship, or whatever the case may be. But even in that, sometimes I feel like, they can look at that and say, well, what's the purpose in that?
Right.
And I just want to encourage you, like the purpose in that is use it all for the glory of God.
Yeah.
Right.
The purpose in that is, reach your goal, get that degree, whatever the case may be, brew that coffee,
right,
for God's glory. Because here's the thing: if you love God where you are with what you have, God knows how to take you to where He wants you to be.
That's good. Yeah, I love that you said brew that coffee for God's glory. One, because coffee is is Christian.
Coffee is Christian,
but. You said young adults have a packed schedule of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there's two amazing biblical characters that show the same thing. You have Jesus, who lived his life as a carpenter, right? Working a real life job in the community. And then you have the Apostle Paul. Like, he's like, I don't want you to have to worry about me, so I'm going to go build these tents. I'm going to go find a way to get some food. And so they did a beautiful job of integrating work and faith, right? And I think that's the challenge for so many young adults is doing that beautiful rhythm of work and faith, of seeing that the work that you're in is also an opportunity to live out your faith and kind of bring that together. When you brew a good cup of coffee, like I think you're showing people that rather than being upset at a coffee order, you're enjoying the fact of something you're doing, whatever job you're at. And if you're not enjoying it, go find something else.
Right. And that's what I said, like,
why are you there?
That's why it's our purpose is simple. It's not easy. Why are we here? We are here to love God and love our neighbor as ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that's what and I love what you said. Find yourself in Christ. Like our fundamental identity is in our relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
I was in thinking about this, and I don't want to talk too much. Y'all jump in anytime. I was thinking about Romans chapter 8, and one of the powerful passages in Romans chapter 8 is, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, to them who are the called according to his purpose.
Yeah.
So all things don't work together for good for everybody.
Right.
They work together for good to those who are the called according to his purpose. But then it gets real good. It gets gooder, and I ain't trying to preach too much, but the context of that passage, well, there's a context to that passage. If you read above, it talks about this idea of all creation groaning and waiting for what? The sons of God to be revealed.
Right, yeah.
The sons and daughters of God. And so it's like all of creation is waiting for us to find our purpose and to live out our relationship as sons and daughters of God.
Yeah.
Like that's why we're here.
Because the world needs you.
Yeah. I mean, I could keep going, but yeah, y'all.
That's good. I love it. I think about this question, why am I here, right? And what I want to kind of do to close off is let's provide some advice, right? Young adults trying to figure out life, trying to figure out who to marry, trying to figure out why they're here, trying to figure out their passions. They're going after degree plans. They're spending a lot of money in college because they don't know what degree plan to go after, all that good stuff. I'm still paying college payments. Y'all pray for me. But one thing I love about this generation is they're passionate. They love being a part of movements. And like you said, I think that we're seeing a rise of young adults desiring to serve the church, desiring to show who God is, desiring to be real in their relationship with God. And they're passionate. But one of the hard things is there's so much stuff going on in this culture within even the Christian world that you want to be a part of all of it, right? And so it's like, I want to be a part of passion. I want to be a part of carry the love. I want to be a part of all these things, and we just want to be a part of all of it.
Yeah.
And one thing I love about Jesus is that while Jesus was passionate, he was also had this focused passion. And I love looking at just moments of Jesus' life where he goes by himself to pray, and he wakes up and people are looking for him and all that stuff. And he said, well, it's time to go to the next town. While there were still people to be loved and served and healed and taught and all that stuff in this town, there are still good opportunities for ministry. There's still important things to be done, but his focused passion helped him understand, I got to go do this other thing. So Jesus knew why he was here. He came to seek and save the lost, right? Yeah. He understood his passion. And I think once we get that reality of I understand why I'm here, it's going to help us be focused in what we're called to do, whether that's working at a church setting or maybe that's working in a barista setting, whatever that case may be. Like if you're passionate about that thing, go after that thing.
Or in the boardroom, or in the medical industry,
yes.
Or like in the education field, I mean.
So what's some advice you guys would give to young adults who are trying to figure out life, why they're here?
It's more of an encouragement than advice, or maybe it's the same.
That's
but literally on the way to this podcast, to this recording, I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw a quote from Elizabeth Elliot, who was an amazing woman of God. She's now passed. But I follow a page that's kind of like a scrapbook of her legacy. And so I saw a quote that said...
What's the handle? Do you know it?
Elizabeth Elliot scrapbook. Something like that. I don't know, something like that.
If you Google that, you'll find it.
If you Google it. So the quote said, God uses sinners. There is no one else to use.
Dang.
And that... just like seeing that this morning, it correlates one to what I said earlier about me not feeling good enough to pursue this calling. And then also what you said last night about us being kind of discouraged about us wanting to make an impact like right now. And when we realize like God can still use me where I am, it just doesn't always mean I'm going to make an impact tomorrow. But our faithfulness today will matter for tomorrow.
Yes.
And if we are faithful with what we have, with who we have around us, God sees our faithfulness in where we are. And that allows the open door for him to come in and then to take us where he wants us to go. So it's just an encouragement. If you are like not in a church setting, in a ministry setting, if you're out in the world working, ask yourself, how can I make Jesus known? But most importantly, how can I know Jesus through what I do and then glorify him? And then just ask yourself, how can I make him known through what I do? And make him that forefront of every single day when I get up. How can I make him known today?
I love that you said, and how can I know Jesus? Right. That's the foundation, right? There's a Christian worship artist I love listening to. His name is Jonathan Ogden. He had this like super hipster indie worship band called Rivers and Robots. I actually don't even know what that means. But he has a song called Discovery, and it's one of my favorite worship songs. And in there's a line that he says, now that I know I'm made for this discovery. Like, this is why I'm here, to discover who God is. And I think when we get to that point, it's a beautiful, now lifelong journey of just walking in a relationship with him. And so, Nick, I'll let you close with this here in a second. But here are 5 questions that I read one time in a book, Garden City, John Mark Comer, of Work and Rest. But I love to give you these questions because they helped me and impacted me of figuring out life. First question. So really, if you're asking the question, why am I here? The best way to do it is to ask more questions. And so here are more questions. What do you love to do? What are you good at? Where are doors opening? What are people who know you saying about you? And what's the Spirit stirring in your heart? And so if you're writing notes, write down those questions and just start processing all those and take some time to focus in it, because that's going to help us get to that focused passion, I believe. So.
Some advice, and I love how Isha framed that, more encouragement. Also, I want to say this to Paper Room listeners. Subscribers, as you continue to listen, take a note of how many John Mark Comer references there are.
Amen.
And
at the end of the year, we'll come full circle.
At the end of the year, we'll come full circle.
Announce it.
The winner that is accurate, we will send you a John Mark Comer book.
Come on, I'll gladly send that.
Mini collection.
I'm serious. Let's do that so that we can keep doing it. But some encouragement, and it's very simple. And I kind of been saying this. Why are you here? To love God,
please,
and love your neighbor as yourself. Because as we grow in our love for God, Jesus said, if you love me, you're going to keep my commandments.
Yes.
Jesus said it. So the more we grow in our love for God and receiving, his love, that is going to be the catalyst for all of our actions and behaviors and desires and career choices. And then I would say, love your neighbor as yourself. And this goes into what you said. Like, what do you love to do now? What do you love? And guess what? If you answer that question and you figure out that what you love is dumb, then praise the Lord. You can change what you love. You know what I mean? You can redirect your affections.
Yeah,
that's good.
You know what I mean? But it starts with identity and identifying.
Yeah.
I think that those are 2 big words right now at this juncture in life as a young adult. Identity, and then identifying.
That's good.
Identity. Who am I? Who how am I being as a son of God, or do I even have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ? Like, how's that? And then identifying where is God leading me? How is he directing me? What are my gifts, passions, and all of that? So
that's good. What are you guys watching on Netflix right now? Are y'all binging anything?
I don't have Netflix anymore. I watch Peacock.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were about to say I'm like a super Christian. I don't watch TV.
Oh, nah. So this
then.
ain't on Netflix. It's on Hulu. But Abbott Elementary is hilarious.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, you got to watch it, man. Abbott Elementary is hilarious. Yeah, it's very funny.
On Peacock, what are you watching?
Parks and Rec. I've seen it before, but I just like to. It makes me happy.
I've never seen it.
That's actually better than The Office.
So yeah, that's why I don't watch it.
But it's
People say that.
No, but you should, that's like seriously.
Yeah.
Like I've had more like gut laughter
Yes.
In Parks and Rec. Okay.
from Parks.
I'll watch it.
Yes.
I'll give it a shot.
It's so
I tried
funny.
The
season one.
Office is
Yeah.
the Office is very funny.
It's OG. The
That's
Office is
OG.
OG.
but Parks and Rec is funny.
I'm watching Daredevil right now. I never saw it on
Okay.
Netflix.
Is it good?
It's really interesting. It's good, yeah. And the reason I'm watching it, I mean, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but by this point, if you haven't seen it, it's on you. Matt Murdock comes out in a new Spider-Man movie, right?
Okay. I still haven't seen that yet. Pray for your
Spoilers, bro.
boy.
That's not a big
Yes,
spoiler,
I've
but
seen
it was almost a prediction.
Okay.
So the fact that he came out, I was like, oh, okay, now I got to go watch Daredevil. So motivate. And I actually read a stat like, they got like 3 million extra streams after Spider-Man came out. People went back and watched it.
Wow.
So I'm just glad to be a part of that stat. That is me in there.
That's
And
why
so-
I'm here.
Right. And so,
A part of something.
anyway, love this conversation. Why am I here? Get
Yes.
people around you to help you process this. Get people who believe in Jesus around you to help you process this. And that was an amazing conversation with you guys for episode 2 of the Paper Room Podcast. And we are praying for every young adult tuning in as you go out and figure out who you are and who God has called you to be. And so we love you guys, and we'll see you all next time
See
for
you
the
next
next
time.
episode.
Alrighty.